While horror is frequently dismissed as one of the most predictable and least imaginative of all film genres, that's really not true at all, as is proven beyond any doubt by these movies alone. Satisfaction often stems from our expectations being subverted in clever and creative ways, and that's certainly what happened in these films, which dared to fake audiences out in devilishly deceptive fashion. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with horror movie Fakeouts we all fell for. The cops arrive at the end in Get Out. Jordan Peele's masterful Oscar-winning horror satire Get Out climaxes with embattled black man Chris fighting off the racist, brainwash-happy Armitage family, and finally facing off against his own ex-girlfriend Rose. Despite Rose's attempts to kill him, Chris finds himself unable to strangle her to death, and just as he relinquishes his grip on her throat, the sirens of a police car blare out behind them both. The cops are here and they're about to stumble upon the sight of a black man knelt over a horribly wounded white woman. How exactly does anyone expect this situation to go? But Peele then cuts to the door of the police car where the word airport is visible. As it turns out, this isn't a patrol unit but Chris's airport police officer pal, Rod. Peele so brilliantly exploits our understandably cynical expectations for any situation where a black individual is flagged down by the police, only to flip it so ecstatically on its head with the revelation that the siren and flashing lights are actually a safe haven for Chris. The double opening fake out in Scream 4. The sequel begins with two young women being slaughtered by Ghostface in standard Scream fashion. But as they die their ultra-gory deaths, Wes Craven pulls back to reveal that we're actually watching the opening sequence of Stab 6, a sequel in Scream's movie within a movie franchise, based on the events of the Scream series itself, no less. The real start of Scream 4 involves two friends played by Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell watching Stab 6 and disparaging the state of contemporary horror movies, before Bell's character suddenly stabs Paquin with a knife and Craven pulls out again to reveal that this is really the start of Stab 7. Craven then finally proceeds with the movie's actual prologue, as Jenny and Marnie watch Stab 7 and are subsequently murdered by the new Ghostface killer. Craven went full meta here, and for better or worse, nobody saw either of the fake-outs coming. Marion Crane is the protagonist in Psycho. While it's one of horror cinema's worst-kept secrets these days, you have to respect the ambition of Alfred Hitchcock to execute such a daring audience fake-out way back in 1960. Though Psycho's marketing made it abundantly clear that Janet Leigh would be starring as protagonist Marion Crane, this was all part of Hitchcock's master plan to catch audiences off guard. Just before the film's midway point, Marion is suddenly killed off by the knife-wielding killer while taking a shower, completely upending our expectation of where the story is going and who the protagonist is. At this point, the perspective shifts to Bates Motel owner Norman Bates, and because one fake-out apparently wasn't enough, Hitchcock then builds up Norman's mother to be the killer, only to reveal that it's actually a mentally ill Norman himself. As it turns out, Norman has developed an alternate personality in his mind in the vein of his mother, who he himself killed many years earlier. Zepp is Jigsaw in Saw. Saw boasts not only one of the most ingenious plot twists in the history of the horror genre, but really cinema period. And a big part of the twist's success lies in how ingeniously it misdirects viewers with a fake-out villain reveal. In the third act, we learn that the serial killer known as Jigsaw appears to be Zepp Hindle, an orderly who works at the same hospital as Dr. Gordon. At film's end, Zepp attempts to kill Gordon in the iconic grotty bathroom where Gordon and Adam's deadly game is being played out, only for Adam to catch Zepp off guard and beat him to death with a toilet tank lid. Game over, right? Not quite. Gordon, who'd just sawn his foot off, then crawls away to summon help for a still-chained Adam, just as Adam searches Zepp's corpse and finds a tape. The tape reveals that Zepp wasn't actually Jigsaw all along, but simply another pawn in the game, with Jigsaw's identity then revealed to be John Kramer, one of Gordon's terminal cancer patients. Zepp was simply doing as Jigsaw instructed in order to receive an antidote to the slow-acting poison coursing through his own veins. And because this isn't wild enough, the dead body that's been laying in the middle of the bathroom since the game started suddenly stands up, alive. The not corpse is in fact Kramer himself, who has evidently been observing the entire game unfold with a front row seat. Ripley destroys the Nostromo in Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien may be a deliberate, methodically paced sci-fi horror movie for the most part, but it certainly gives audiences plenty of bang for their buck during its action-packed finale. Near the end of the film, Ripley seemingly kills the xenomorph when she activates the Nostromo's self-destruct sequence and evacuates the vessel in an escape shuttle. The ship explodes and Ripley prepares to enter stasis for the trek home, but at that moment she realizes that there's a stowaway on board the shuttle, the damn xenomorph. And so Ripley dons a spacesuit as she prepares to battle with the alien creature once more, eventually culminating in the Xeno being blasted out into the cold, uncaring vacuum of space. Only then, with the alien threat categorically dealt with, is Ripley able to safely enter stasis with the mission's only other survivor, the crew's cat Jones. Ripley scuttling the Nostromo would have been a sufficiently exciting climax for such a consistently restrained film, but Scott ultimately decided to go all out with a delirious two-pronged finale. The FBI raids Buffalo Bill's house in The Silence of the Lambs. The Silence of the Lambs surely earned its Oscar nomination for Best Film Editing for one brilliantly executed moment during the movie's climax, when the FBI prepares to raid serial killer Buffalo Bill's home, all while Agent Clarice Starling pays a visit to someone who knew Bill's first victim. As the FBI ring the bell on Bill's home, he goes to answer the door and is greeted by Clarice. As director Jonathan Demme cuts back and forth between the FBI breaking into an empty house and Clarice talking to Buffalo Bill, it's clear that the FBI got the wrong house and Clarice has wound up in Bill's company all by herself. It's one of cinema's all-time greatest WTF moments, ensuring that most anyone watching for the first time takes a sharp, involuntary intake of breath as they process the dangerous situation Clarice has found herself in. The scene is such an outstanding example of parallel editing that it's regularly shown in film schools around the globe. If you want to get one over on your audience without making it feel massively cheap, this is how you do it. Brahms is a possessed doll in The Boy. 2016's The Boy was sold to audiences as yet another possessed doll movie, albeit having more in common with Annabelle than, say, the campy theatrics of Child's Play. The story follows Greta, who is hired by a wealthy old couple to act as the nanny for Brahms, a porcelain doll serving as a stand-in for their real son of the same name, who apparently died in a house fire 2 decades prior. Like Annabelle, we never see Brahms move around on screen, but then the third act delivers a wildly unexpected and ludicrously entertaining twist. The doll isn't possessed at all. As it turns out, Brahms survived the fire 20 years earlier and has been living in the walls of his parents' mansion ever since. It was him who was moving the doll throughout the film, offering up an amusingly grounded subversion of the typical possessed doll shtick. Sadly, 2020's sequel Brahms the Boy 2 effectively retconned this clever upending of expectations by revealing that the doll is actually possessed, while the flesh and blood Brahms from this movie is bafflingly nowhere to be found. Esther is a satanic child in Orphan. The marketing for 2009's Orphan was centered around the fact that Kate and John Coleman's adopted 9-year-old daughter Esther had a secret of some kind. There's something wrong with Esther, the posters told us, and so audiences were led to believe that Orphan was basically a contemporary riff on The Omen, with Esther being the devilishly inclined spawn of Satan, or something like that anyway. But the film's climactic reveal is that Esther isn't actually a child at all. She's a 33-year-old woman suffering from a rare hormone disorder that stunts her growth and gives her the appearance of a child, which she also accentuates with elaborate makeup. Ultimately though, Orphan's story is ridiculous. It's fundamentally realistic in that there's nothing supernatural about it, as surely nobody saw coming. Casting a child in the role of Esther and aging her up for the final stretch was really the masterstroke that prevented most people from figuring out what was going on.